Let's talk about color coordinating. Hey everyone, Dylan Schumacher, Citadel Defense, and today we are here to talk about color coordinating your magazines. I am out here today because I have a bunch of blanks and I wanted some dedicated blank magazines. So I'm going to take a bunch of my magazines, well about 10, and I'm going to paint them blue so that these are my designated blank only magazines. And then I also have an ammo can that has all my blanks, and I'm gonna paint that blue too, so that I know that that's my blank ammo can. And when I was doing that, I was thinking about it, and I was thinking, well, you know, this might actually be worth a video here to just think about this for just a second. So, you know, it's a lot of us will, and I don't do this, but I know some of you do this, I guess. You have designated training magazines, right? And those are your magazines that you take to the range to train with. And maybe you wrap them in some red tape or some pink tape or some Hello Kitty tape or something weird so that no one would accidentally grab it, right? So that you know that it's your training magazine. Totally fine, totally valid, totally get it. And the theory there, right, is that magazines are expendable. So I want to use the training magazines and then I want to save my game day magazines so that they're not a problem when it comes time to actually use them, right? Personally, I haven't worn magazines out yet. I have predominantly the Magpul PMags Gen 2. These are like 90% of my magazines. I have some metal ones in here. I just don't shoot enough, sadly, I guess, to wear magazines out. Hopefully you do, and hey, kudos to you if that's the case, but I don't. So I haven't really run into that issue where I need to do that. But a couple thoughts on that. If you do want to paint some magazines to have them, you know, color coded for different training purposes, here's what I would suggest. When it comes to blue, keep that for non-lethal stuff. Why? Because that's typically kind of the universally accepted color in our sphere here of training non-lethal stuff, right? So not that I have grenades, that'd be cool if I did, but if I had grenades and I had a training grenade, I'd paint it blue, right? To say this is an inert, non-lethal magazine, right? Or if we had a shotgun that was a sandbag shotgun, right? I would paint it blue. Why? So that we know that that's the inert, less lethal shotgun, right? Or anything of that nature, we're gonna paint it blue. When you have tourniquets, like your practice tourniquets, right? Those always come in blue. So I have a bunch of cheap Blue Rhino blue tourniquets that I use for our practice tourniquets, right? And those are or not Blue Rhino, Rhino. I can't remember. That's the Rhino brand. They're all blue. They're practice tourniquets. That's what we use. So my point being there that those are typically your training things. You don't want to paint your live fire magazines blue, right? Even if they're your on-range training ones. You typically don't want to do that because, like I said, blue is that universal accepted color of training, less lethal, whatever. You don't want anyone else to accidentally ever make that mistake. So if you were gonna paint some magazines that you wanted to have just as you're training, like I said, some people will wrap tape on them, like a fluorescent tape. Other people will, you could just paint them like a high-vis orange or a pink, or you can even do little stripe patterns. You can get really intricate with it. The other thing you could do is you can 3D print end caps, right? So if you have a 3D printer at home, you can replace, and I can't punch this out right now, I apologize. Hold on. Oh man, that one's in there. Okay, I'm not gonna be able to remove that. But this end plate right here is removable, okay? Believe it or not, most of the time you can. I don't have any tools on me right now, otherwise we could crank it off. But you just push this little center button down to release the spring, and then you can slide that off. And you can 3D print these. You could 3D print those in different colors, right? You can get like 10 orange caps that you're just gonna put on your range magazines, And again, that would be pretty unique, something that not everyone would pick up on. And then the best part is they'd be high vis to be able to see when you're dropping them on the ground or in the range or you're running through a field or whatever. That'd be nice to do. Again, don't do that with your game day magazines because you want those to blend in. I was even out in the field recently and a guy had a green plate carrier on, and he had some metal gray mags just stacked up on his plate carrier. He had like 3 across, and they had just the slightest bit of black paint on them. But I was pulling security, and I was watching him come into our halt, and I was like, man, I would shoot that guy first, because these gray magazines just glowed on the front of his plate carrier, right? They were just glowing. And when we got back, I told him, I'm like, you got to paint those mags, man. That's gonna get you killed, right? I would totally shoot that guy first because it's so easy to see, right? So, one in here. This magazine is camo painted, not because like I'm super intricate or cool about that, but because this is just the one that I've used a bunch when it comes to painting my rifles, right? I've just grabbed this magazine, popped it in to block off the magazine, the magwell, there we go, couldn't find the words, and then I painted the rifle, right? And so this magazine's end up getting painted along with the rifle. Today it's gonna get all blue coated because it was empty and it was hanging out. So my point being, just as you think about your magazines, and maybe you only have like 10 magazines, so this isn't a conversation for you anyway, but hopefully you're trying to collect more and more magazines. I try to usually wait until the PMags get around $8-9 a pop. If I can get free shipping, even better. And then I'll try to pack in a 10 pack here or there, right? And over time, as you do that, you can collect magazines, and then you can start issuing them for different purposes. And I just think that's helpful. That can just be helpful for you, right? You're never gonna have too many magazines and say, oh, if only I had less magazines. You will never say those words, I promise. So those are my thoughts on kind of color coordinating magazines, and just having a general system. I'm a big fan of systems of how to set up your own personal armory here to make your life a little bit easier. Do brave deeds and endure.